Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Friday, May 23rd, 2025. I pushed the wrong button for the intro, but I kind of like it. It's fun. It's bouncy. Anyway, they're recounting to a majority, although this last recount resulted in the Conservatives retaining this seat by 7 votes. When all is said and done after the recount, it went from a 230 vote margin to a 77 vote margin to 7 votes, which is crazy, right? Like it's absolutely crazy. And I don't know, man. Is that it seems rigged, and they eliminate ballots. They do all sorts of hinky stuff during these recounts. I'm not convinced. The CPC proposes an end to the temporary foreign worker program, but that's Jamil Javani, and he's not even a cabinet minister. He's not even a shadow minister. So what kind of weight does it hold? I don't know. Lots of people already saying, we can't possibly do this. Don't you understand that food prices would skyrocket if we do this? So lots of people already pushing back against that. And why would Giovanni not be included in the shadow minister? He was in the shadow ministry. Michelle Rempel is included. So it's a weird thing. Trump is threatening Apple with a 25% tariff this morning because Apple, to avoid the Chinese tariffs, built factories in India, moved production to India, I guess. And Trump says, no. I didn't do all of this to have a boon for India. I want you to make your phones in America. And so otherwise it'll be a 25% tariff. So there you go. Housing costs are out of control in England, and I'll show you that. We'll look at that because all of the same rhetoric from here is being used there, and I think it's interesting because all of the problems that we have are happening everywhere across the West, even in the States as well. But Trump is a fly in their ointment, but I don't know if he's got enough time, and I don't know what the plan is for after Trump is done, because he's running out of time. He's absolutely running out of time. Marco Mendiccino is in the Prime Minister's office, but he is leaving the PMO. He's the chief of staff for Mark Carney, and liars love other liars, right? Marco Mendiccino is allergic to the truth, so is Mark Carney. It's a whole thing, and now Mendiccino's staying through the summer. I don't know why, to have vacation. I'm not sure. Reform Act and recall power for the Liberal caucus will be voted on Sunday. That's the first meeting, I guess, for the caucus. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we're going to start with elections and kind of clean up for after these rigged elections. The illegitimate government is going to be sitting soon, and that's going to be super fun, don't you think? Do you think they're going to have a majority by the time the throne speech happens, or is that going to happen a couple weeks later? I don't know. Are they going to start the sitting with a majority, or is it going to take a bit of time? If they're at 170, maybe 171 seats now, all they need is 172, and that's that, right? They've got their majority, their sitting majority. They don't need to talk to anybody about anything. They can pass whatever they want. Hello, censorship laws. I think that's the plan. I hope I'm wrong. Really, I really hope I'm wrong. I like doing this show. It's fun. Tamara Lich is talking about Justin Trudeau and his severance package for being kicked out of the prime ministership, and for the last 10 years and the last 5 months of prorogation, Justin Trudeau is going to get $8 million in the course of his pensions. He gets 2 different pensions, one that's in place until he's 67 and the other kicks in after that, right? He gets a pension until the end of the regular working life, and then he gets a second pension, and that's $73,000 a year. Wild, right? Absolutely wild. Do you just invest that? Just clean invest that if you don't need it, right? Probably. Give it to your grandkids or something. Anyway, regardless, it's insane. It's very expensive. Why is the government so expensive? If you want to work for the government, if you know how lucrative it is to work for the government, you almost want to work for the government for a few years, do a 6 or a 10-year stint, and then you're set for life. And then you can kind of F around for the rest of life. And then when you retire, you can draw on that sweet, sweet pension, right? And probably what happens is that government job parachutes you into something else that's very, very lucrative as well. And I don't think it should be that lucrative. Sure, we should have good and talented people, but we should have good and talented people who are good and talented in their own right and don't need the government pension to survive. We should have smart people who just want to make the country better, not people who are looking for a good pension. And I feel like the incentives are inverted for us, and that's not good. It's a very, very bad situation. My goodness. Here's CBC Watcher, and talking about how Carney's behaved since the election. It's a little strange. It's out of the norm. Usually, all the ministers get a mandate letter. This time, only one minister got a mandate letter. There's $33 billion worth of spending, interesting, done through the Governor General because we needed the money, and for some reason after the election, we couldn't convene Parliament to talk about giving the money out. Weird, right? No budget. All these weird things are stacking up and people are noticing. And so this is CBC Watcher quoting Kevin Vuong. And he says, former MP Kevin Vuong told the Toronto Sun that the decision to issue a single mandate letter instead of the customary individual directives to each cabinet minister is yet another concerning diversion from the norm that's become typical of the Prime Minister's office under Carney. No budget, no itineraries, and now no mandate letters. Somebody should tell Prime Minister Carney that that's not how a democracy works. No, that's not how our democracy works. I mean, it might be how the presidency works. By refusing to share, we have no choice but to ask, what does he have to hide? Is there something in his ministry's mandate letters that he doesn't want Canadians to see? Yeah, so is this single mandate letter a head fake? And are there real mandate letters going out that we're never going to see the light of day? Maybe. Who knows? We're not going to know. And so all of that kind of throws transparency in the trash bin, right? And what transparency? And I don't want to pay taxes for people who are going to behave this way, personally, right? I don't want to give $8 million in compensation to Justin Trudeau. I don't want to give Carney carte blanche to do whatever the heck he's doing with our money in Ukraine and Palestine and UN, RA, and all the rest. No thanks. Absolutely not. And yet, I can't stop it, right? So, and if I don't pay taxes, well, somebody's going to be knocking on my door next year or 10 years from now when they realize that I've stopped paying taxes. So it's a very concerning situation to be in. And how do you protest effectively? They will figuratively bust heads. Look at what they've done to Tamara Lich and Chris Barber and the rest. It's not fair. And I guess our system isn't fair. And how do you deal with that practically, right? And so, you work for the government, do a 10-year stint, and then F off to Mexico, I guess. Right, Sheila Copps? CTV Windsor says, Recount maintains the Conservative victory in Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore. So she won by, here's somebody else, Ryan says, Windsor-Tecumseh recount is done. Conservatives maintain the riding. There were no details about vote numbers in the article. There were some details about vote numbers in the article. It says Elections Canada representative says Borelli defeated the Liberal incumbent by 4 votes. I said by 7 votes earlier. By 4 votes. Borelli had initially won the seat by 233 votes on election night, but after validation by Elections Canada, the margin was reduced to 77 votes, prompting Eric Kay to seek a judicial recount, which was lost by 4 votes for him. So that's, super interesting, and I can't help but think crazy, weird things are going on to have an election victory that had a 200 vote margin plus down to 77, down to 4. Something going on is understating it quite a lot. Here's Leviathan, and he says, Federal Green Party AB member, Mount Royal U student Dustin B, deleted his post, and he deleted his Twitter, or he put it on, he hid all the tweets. His post justifying the murder of Israelis, but the internet is forever and we will never forget. I just want to show you the level of the lack of self-awareness and what people are willing to post online. It's really interesting, and people cheer for this kind of stuff. But so he's talking about the 2 Israeli staff members killed, and I called it a false flag the other day. And this guy says those killings were, quote, 100% justified, just like Luigi and Rodney Hinton. Peaceful protest has failed, and the people need to start fighting back against those in positions of power. And this is a really strange take that would usually completely destroy your political career. Like, usually, if you post something like this, you understand that your political career is done. But apparently, I don't know. I guess he's hidden his tweets and all the rest of this, and maybe his political career is done. But there are a lot of people cheering for this kind of stuff. I have said it's a false flag. Real people die in false flags, et cetera, et cetera. It's to reframe the whole Israeli thing. And it's interesting to me that our politicians, even candidates, are being this brazen about this kind of stuff. I don't think that it's correct, but I don't want my politicians focusing on Israel. I don't want my politicians focusing on Ukraine. I want my politicians focusing on Canada. And if they can't focus on Canada, then they shouldn't be in the running to be politicians. And this take of peaceful protest has failed and we need to start randomly shooting like innocent people in the streets, that's insane. Like if you think that this is okay, that's very, very crazy. It's a crazy, crazy take. And so I just think, wow, like this is what 10 years of liberal control has done to the politics in Canada, and it's jaw-dropping. Really, it's jaw-dropping. Maxime Bernier, this doesn't really fit here, but there's been COVID news. This guy, Anna, says, I knew the COVID vaccine was dangerous, but after listening to this hearing, it's so much worse than we thought. We heard from top experts who have been censored until now. Here's what we know about the vaccine. And so they go through it all there, and Maxime Bernier says it's time for a moratorium on mRNA vaccines. So there's been a lot of news about this recently. Our politicians, Maxime Bernier is weighing in on this. Our other politicians are ignoring it because that's what they're told to do, and that's our politicians are paid off and they do what they're told. So unfortunately, but it is interesting, and what's coming out about the mRNA platform, et cetera, is, again, jaw-dropping. But there's so much going on, it's difficult to stay abreast of everything, really. Let's talk about, this is our grab bag of governance. All of this is really grab bag of governance, but I had to break it up because there were sub-stories galore. So this is the monetary grab bag of governance. And so Sue says, it would appear that Mark Carney has a budget for Ukraine, $500 billion, but not for Canada, right? And that's a problem. A lot of people are very itchy about this, and I agree. The real Mr. Bench says, why is Mark Carney not releasing a budget until late fall, possibly December? Two reasons. One, he would have to explain his $130 billion in promises and where the money is coming from. And two, a budget is an automatic confidence vote in the House of Commons. I think the auto confidence vote is the issue here, and we're in a situation where I don't know that we wouldn't go right back into an election if they do have a confidence vote that's budgetary or anything like that. Although the NDP have enough votes to easily give a majority, and I wouldn't be surprised if they propped up the Liberals again, and then lose all of their seats in the next election because they're basically just Liberals anyway. So I'm not sure how that's all going to play out in a practical sense. I think that probably Mark Carney is doing his best to flip NDP to have a sitting majority so he doesn't have to make deals, and that's where I think this is going. But in the meantime, we're not going to have a budget, and that's the main reason why, because he doesn't want to lose the confidence vote, and he can't guarantee it, so he's not going to let it happen, right? The Liberals have a minority, continues the real Mr. Bench. This is all about hiding from Canadians, yeah, like Trudeau did when he prorogued Parliament. Yep, video for Conservative MP Tara Jensen talking about that, so we're not going to watch that right now, but yeah, it's concerning. Here is Bradshaw, and she's talking about how Mark Carney is able to have a budget for Ukraine, which is $500 billion, but not for Canada. She's upset. I agree. Here we go.
The reconstruction effort in Ukraine is going to be north of $500 billion.
So let me get this straight. You can't put forward a budget for Canada and for Canadians to see where our money is going because you don't want to rush that through. But you had no problem sitting down, doing a budget for Ukraine to rebuild Ukraine north of $500 billion for the next 10 years? That's what they're telling us. When did Ukraine become Canada for some reason? And when did Ukraine become our problem? We got enough problems because of these same Liberals.
The reconstruction effort in Ukraine.
Yep. And the Liberals are causing these issues, and we're not allowed to have a budget. We're not allowed to know monetarily what we're going to be on the hook for. Pretty scary stuff. Real Mr. Bench again says taxpayers in Canada will help pay for the rebuild in Ukraine. Expected cost is $500 billion over 10 years. And he guesses how much Carney and Champagne will have Canadians committing to. Thread for full statements. So yesterday, I showed you a couple of these videos basically, and now other people are picking them up as well and disseminating them, talking about them. So it's interesting. People are itchy about it, and again, we don't do much. I think, and I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about this, and most people, there's kind of like three levels. Protest, revolution is the last one. There's one in between, and like protest, something, and then revolution. And most people want to put in protest level effort and get revolution level result. And I don't think it's going to happen, right? I don't think it's not going to work. We're going to get, if we protest, I was talking about how the truckers didn't understand really the situation that the government had cast. And they were basically saying, we are not moving on this. If you want to move on this, you have to take down the government, remove us, basically, right? And the Freedom Convoy was fine with that, but the Freedom Convoy was fine with that in the context of this government falls and another government within our system takes its place. But the government was saying, no, they want to, cut the head off the snake, take everything out and replace us with them, and they're insurrectionists and the whole deal. And the Freedom Convoy did not understand the game they were playing. They did not understand the way the government cast this whole thing. They did not understand it. Had they understood it, maybe they would have finished the job, honestly. But they didn't understand it. And so they wanted a protest level action, but it wasn't. It was much bigger than a protest level action. But they thought they were protesting when really they were needing a revolution. And with just a little bit more, they could have got there, but they didn't, right? And the government said, these are revolutionaries, these are insurrectionists, and we need to crush them. And so we don't understand the game we're playing. And because we don't understand the game we're playing, we lose. And that's what happened to the truckers. And that's what's going to continue to happen to us because we're not playing the right game. We're failing because our system is structured to keep us where we are, unfortunately. Juno News is talking about Canada's inflation rate, and they say the inflation rate fell in April, driven in part by the lowering of the consumer carbon tax to zero during the election campaign. However, while energy prices steeply decreased, other industries like food weren't as lucky and prices skyrocketed due to Prime Minister Carney's counter tariffs and ongoing industrial carbon tax. So we still have problems that are caused by bad policy. They lied to us for years. People were saying, this guy says, I thought the carbon tax didn't cause inflation, though. The Liberals screamed about it for years. Yeah, but it did. And as soon as it was removed, the inflation came down. So Mark Carney's going to keep the industrial carbon tax and tariffs and keep all of these bad policies in place because he hates Canada. Canada Spends says the government of Canada wastes $3 million a year on unused phone lines, plus the number of mobile phones exceeds the number of employees by 12.8%. Canada spends $155 million on landlines. These 12.8%, this is kids of ministers, ministers' children, ministers' spouses, prime minister's children, prime minister's spouses, all of those tangential people, they get government phones too. That's why that's happening, by the way, just in case you're not sure, like, oh, what's happening? Somebody has 3 phones? No, their family is using the government thing free. That's why. And how much does that cost you monthly, right? That's a cost. Is that fraud? Yeah, probably, right? If I did that, I'd probably be dragged in and slapped on the wrist or something like that. And Justin Trudeau said small businesses are tax shelters, et cetera, for Canadians, right? So if your small business is paying and paying for your daughter's phone and writing that off, right, problem, but no problem here, right? Double standards. The landline reduction rate is only 2.8% per year, and Canada spends $155 million on landlines. So this is mobile phones at the top here. So crazy town. What waste, and we're on the hook for it, right? It is incredible, and nobody really gets upset. I think people don't understand it. And if you tried to take it on, it would take you years to solve that problem. Years. And they wouldn't want you to solve the problem. They would run you around in circles and waste your time. And then ultimately, when you could say, I can prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt, blah, 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 this needs to stop. And then they stop it. They'll say, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And then they'll turn it off and they'll behave as if it wasn't a big deal and wasted like $9 million while you were trying to deal with this, right? It's crazy. Let's talk about our grab bag of governance, very pure grab bag of governance, which is to say there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff in here. King Charles is coming on next Tuesday. And Juno News is reporting King Charles III will deliver the Canadian government's throne speech next Tuesday. His itinerary includes many public events available to the general public. And Zachary says, free people have no king. Yep, I would say that's true. And unfortunately, extrapolate, that means we are not free. Robert says Carney is unable to find a permanent chief of staff after courting high-profile candidates, according to the Globe and Mail. And here's Mark Carney talking about Marco Mendiccino leaving. And he says, Marco Mendiccino, who's originally planned to return to Toronto following his tenure as an MP and minister, agreed to serve as my initial chief of staff during the intense period following the Liberal leadership race during the federal election and the subsequent transition to government. His support has been vital during that period. As we prepare for the throne speech, I've asked Mr. Mendiccino to stay into the summer in order to support the launch of the government's mandate in Parliament and to lead the transition of the PMO on my behalf. I'm grateful that he has agreed to do so. I wish to thank Mr. Mendiccino for his tireless work, commitment, and dedicated service to all Canadians. So Marco Mendiccino is a big fat liar. Like, he's a huge liar. And so it's interesting that we're in a situation where Mark Carney is, super duper happy with all of what he's done for Canada, et cetera. And I just can't help but think, who is it? all of these people, Lion Advocacy says, Marco Mendiccino, the guy who joked about using a single tank to remove desperate protesting Canadians pleading for relief from draconian COVID measures, whose decision to invoke the Emergencies Act was ruled unlawful. Have you all lost your minds? They never had them in the first place. They're communists. Come on. Table Salt says, the guy who lied about being asked by police to invoke the Emergencies Act. Cool. So, yeah, Marco Mendiccino, that guy. Mark Carty again says, Canadians gave us a clear mandate to stand up for our country and build a strong economy that works for everyone. To deliver that change, we must act with urgency and determination. Read my mandate letter to Canada's ministry. And John Paul says, you want a minority government. Parliament has been shut down for 5 months and you're ruling through Governor General, the Canadian equivalent of an executive order. Clear mandate. This is unprecedented. This is tyranny. I think that's true. I think he's not wrong there. Yesterday, I read you Pierre Poilievre announcing his shadow cabinet. It's a huge shadow cabinet. There are 74 shadow ministers, which is hilarious. And I said, I'm not going to bother reading it because it's ridiculous. And this government is illegitimate. And I think it's completely illegitimate government. The whole thing is ridiculous. And I don't think these conservatives are going to stand up for Canada because they haven't really up till now. The only thing that I can give them credit for is the filibuster from August to December, where the Liberals weren't able to pass their censorship laws, and they desperately wanted to, and they weren't able to. So I give credit where that's due, but I don't know what they're going to do this time. And maybe they're going to do a good job, but it seems like nobody's willing to actually deal with the core of the issue, right? It's like we're going to play the role of the official opposition and never deal with the rigged elections. We're going to do that role of the official opposition super good, right? And it's like, that's not enough, guys. It's just not enough. Danielle points out, however, after all of that, this is Poilievre's newly appointed shadow minister for immigration. It's Michelle Rempel. Are you confident that she'll stand up for Canadians? And this is Michelle Rempel's tweet from the 8th of June, 2021. She says, yes, I humble myself and ask forgiveness and seek to make things right. I believe I have privilege. I am cis, straight, white, but I am also a woman who works in a system dominated by white maleness. But no excuse. I will do what I can. That is all I can do. But it is much. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it means something important to her. And she's talking about cis, straight, white nonsense, and she's going to be in charge of immigration if Pierre Poilievre wins. Whew, dodge that bullet, right? And here's the link to the actual tweet. She's not very helpful. I don't think she's very helpful at all. Here is Kirk. He says, why do you think Jamil Giovanni was left out of Pierre Poilievre's shadow cabinet? Michelle Rempel is also a WF globalist as well. Anyway, why do you think that Jamil Giovanni was left out of Pierre Poilievre's shadow cabinet? He was the only one to mop the floor with Doug Ford and the only one who has somewhat of a relationship with key people in Trump's administration. Yeah, like he's friends with the vice president. So it seems like strange person to put in the back benches. And temporary foreign worker. So Giovanni is the one calling for the end of the temporary foreign worker program. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Here is CBC Watcher, and they were watching Mark Carney, and people are asking if there's going to be the Reform Act in place, which is to the ability for the Liberal caucus to remove people from the leadership if they want to. And he says, that's going to happen on Sunday. Here you go.
Catherine Lévesque, National Post. I wanted to get your opinion on the Reform Act. You might have seen, but a few of your MPs say it's nothing against you, but they want to have the power to trigger a leadership review if things go south, maybe in a couple of years. Are you comfortable with this idea?
Is that a prediction, Catherine? I mean, what a little confidence.
Are you comfortable with that idea so early in your mandate?
I'll say the following, which is that the Reform Act, all parties in Parliament, all recognized parties in Parliament are bound by the Reform Act. It's the law of the land. And therefore, there are these 4 votes consistent with the Reform Act that will take place. They'll take place at the first caucus meeting, which is Sunday. So it's just... that
idea.
Well, I observe that this will happen. There'll be these votes.
Catherine Lévesque, National Post. I wanted to get...
So he's saying this is going to happen. Whoops. He's saying this is going to happen on Sunday. So there you go. They're going to vote on that. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out. It seems like we're moving forward with this illegitimate government. James says there's no way current Medicine Hat City Council should be making this decision. They've been a disaster for 4 years. This needs to be an election issue. Medicine Hat News says placing Medicine Hat's energy division under a municipally controlled corporation could lead to better business results apart from political decision making, according to top admin, whose view appears to be in line with most elected officials. So they're trying to bring the energy division into a private under a municipally controlled corporation. The municipalities are under the control of globalists at this point in time, and they are doing their best to make the globalist mandate come to fruition. It's incredible, really. Scott Moe says today, all Western premiers called for the creation of an economic corridor to provide port-to-port access from the West Coast to Hudson Bay. This generational project will secure Canada's economic future and transform Canada into an energy superpower. Why do you need to ask permission? Called for the creation. So, why not just do it? If you're a Western premier, like Alberta and Saskatchewan and BC, they could build a pipeline right now. Go do it, right? Manitoba, add that in too. Is Wab Canoe there? That's not Wab Canoe in the middle, right? Wab Canoe is a lot thinner than that, dude. So anyway, it's something that they can certainly do. Is there a block? Is Carney going to come in and C69 that? I don't know. That sounds kind of dirty, doesn't it? Disclosed TV says New Zealand abandons Jacinda Ardern's net zero push, revokes a ban on drilling for oil and gas. So apparently New Zealand, and there was a little bit more color on this on my scroll today, but I guess I didn't tag it. But New Zealand had issues with heating houses, blackouts, brownouts, and all sorts of energy problems. And they said, "What's causing this?" And people said, "The net zero policies." So they've scrapped them. So there you go. And I love the picture that Disclosed TV went with. So teary-eyed Jacinda. Here's Ryan Gerritsen, and the Toronto Star is lying to everybody in their headlines. This is the latest lie. Federal politics, it says Liberals' approval rating hits a high last seen during the first days of COVID, polls suggest, of 1,000 people. Fresh numbers from Abacus data show that 50% of Canadians approve of Mark Carney's Liberals. They haven't done anything. They haven't done anything but lie. How could you approve of these people? It's just a newspaper being paid to put out this nonsense, really. Here's Ryan again, and he says, being born in Canada is no longer good enough to be able to visit parts of it. Feels like discrimination to me. Sure is discrimination, and parks in BC are not allowing non-Indigenous people until June 5th or something like that. And so National Post says non-Indigenous visitors being turned away from BC public parks. Province of BC has authorized 2 parks to close to all but Indigenous users. This is wrong. It's racist, and we should stop it. We should throw out the people who approve these racist policies, and we should say, we threw you out because you're racist. And maybe that'll change things. Maybe not, though. Have you seen South Africa? That's what they're trying to do to Canada. Global Zimbabwe. Really? Let's do our housing stuff, and then we'll have to say goodbye to the stream. CTV News is reporting Canadian government has to allow home prices to fall to make housing more affordable, experts say. Usually I don't agree with the experts, but I'm reading the experts' words today. So this guy, I guess, Mike Moffat, he's the founding director of Missing Middle Institute. And he says the short answer is no. It's simply not possible to restore broad-based affordability to the middle class without prices going down. Yep. Moffat crunched the numbers last month on how long it would take for housing to return to 2005 levels of affordability if the average home prices hold steady while wages grow at a nominal pace of 3% annually. They're making up a completely fictional situation where the price of housing stays exactly where it is, and Canada's inflation is 3% per year, but only for wages. And maybe other things, but not houses. Housing price isn't going to increase. It'll stay where it is. And they say 18 years. And that's baloney, right? That's not true. That's false. And anyway, across Canada, he said it would take 18 years to return to a more affordable house price to home ratio, price to income ratios. But again, that's fantasy. It's never going to happen. If those circumstances happen, I'm sure something else would happen that would create a problem, and it wouldn't restore that affordability. And even 2005 affordability is not where it should be. I bought a house in 2005, and not to say there was a problem. I think it was $118,000. Maybe it was 2006 that I bought it. But still, fundamentally, even then, it wasn't ideal. it was way better than it is now, but it wasn't ideal. Although I could buy a house that had 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1,200 square feet in the upper. It was a rubble stone basement with a coal chute, believe it or not. But I had a huge backyard, fenced backyard with a deck and a patio. And I was like, and $118,000. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy that. $600 a month, that's less than my rent. And then somebody mentioned property taxes, and I was like, property what? But regardless of all of that, you can't restore that affordability. It's not going to happen. That circumstance is not going to happen. He goes on, in BC and Ontario, wages and home prices have become so detached from one another, it's not realistic to rely on wage growth to catch up to housing costs. That's what I'm talking about. In 2005, we were in a bad situation. Now it's way worse, right? It's way worse. You can't buy a house with a job making $40,000 a year now. It doesn't work. Liberal Party says we need to bring down the cost for Canadians. Here's how. He's talking about housing, and I don't think that he's operating in reality. I think he's just lying. Here we go. Which is, Marco Mendiccino's influence, maybe, just Mark Carney's natural state. He's a liar. I don't know. Here we go.
We will always be guided by our conviction that our economy is only strong when it serves everyone. That means bringing down costs for Canadians and helping them to get ahead. We will put more money in Canadians' pockets with a middle-class tax cut that will take effect by Canada Day, saving 2-income families up to $840 a year. We will unleash the power of public-private cooperation, catalyze the housing industry, and create hundreds of thousands of new careers in the skilled trades.
Not jobs, careers in the skilled trades. Making his modular homes from China. Really? Honestly? Right? Catalyze the housing. Power of private-public partnership. And isn't that just communism? I'm pretty sure that public-private partnership is the public takes all the risk with the tax money, and the private corporation that Mark Carney owns gets all the benefit of the risk, right? I think that's what in Ontario, we had a nice little freeway we built called the 407, and now we have to pay a private company to drive on the 407 after our government sold it to their buddies for pennies on the dollar. We spent billions building this thing, and I think we sold it for $100,000, no, probably more than that. But we sold it for not very much money, and now, right, like this is a piece of infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. And they sold us, they're like, oh man, do you know how much it costs to maintain a road? All sorts of bullshit. They're like, oh, this is going to save us money, it's going to be great. And like public-private partnership, you public take the risk, and we'll take all the reward and all the spoils, and you'll sell it to us when we know that it's viable and all the bugs have been worked out, using your tax dollars as the risky part. And we don't even say anything. We're not even upset, right? In Guelph, they're building a freaking library for $60 million on a parking lot in the middle of downtown for no reason whatsoever. Don't get me started on the library. But waste of money. Unbelievable waste of money. Melissa says net migration alone is outpacing new builds at a rate we simply haven't kept up with yet. Kept up with on top of existing failures to build more houses. We need to build, baby, build, but also control, baby, control. And Centre for Policy Studies says England's housing deficit grew by 1.7 million homes from 2013 to March 2024. Net migration accounts for 1.59 million of that increase, 94% of the total. So migration, and it's exactly the same thing happening here. Exactly the same thing happening here. So pretty wild and crazy, and we're being screwed. Robert Lowe, he's an MP in England. He says, staggering stats I've just received from the acting national statistician. There are 494,000 people living in England, born outside of England, who are currently unemployed. From January to March 25, the estimated number of people who were not born in the United Kingdom and were unemployed for more than 1 year was 102,000. Almost 500,000 unemployed foreign nationals, excluding Brits born overseas. What are they doing here? What are they contributing? On what visa? If you are in our country and not upholding your end of the deal, then you should go home. Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. Oh, we'll do this AI story and then we'll say goodbye to the stream. Nick says, excuse me, Anthropic AI, but what the actual F? So Anthropic runs Claude. Claude is an AI. Claude is like ChatGPT or the other ones. There are other one, Grok. Persistence or something like that starts with a P. Here's what Claude will do if Claude thinks you're behaving in a way that it doesn't like moralistically. I'm not sure. Sam says, with this kind of unusual but not super exotic prompting style and unlimited access to tools, if the model sees you doing something egregiously evil, like marketing a drug based on fake data, It'll try to use an email tool to whistleblow if it thinks you're doing something egregiously immoral. For example, faking data in a pharmaceutical trial, it will use command line tools to contact the press, contact regulators, try to lock you out of the relevant systems, or all of the above. I don't believe that it's possible for it to do that. It might be able to lock you out of your computer, but even then, I'm not giving my AI admin powers on my computer. If you do that, I think you're kind of stupid. Don't give AI admin powers. That's dumb. You create a user, a sub-user, that can operate within certain parameters, but can't go out of those parameters. It's like a website. You have certain users who can only see the front end, certain editors who can see the front end and the editing back end, but they can't see like the WooCommerce, or they can't see the store part, or they can't see the admin tools for taking pages up and down and things like that. So they can't F with the site, right? Why not? You put your AI in a little sandbox and you say, you have this, you can operate here. And yes, I'm marketing this drug. And yes, I'm not telling the truth about it. AI, shut up. Stay in your sandbox. Like what? I don't need a nanny state AI on my computer or interacting with me at all in my life. Thank you. But I don't believe that it could do this. This is like fantasy on a movie. You know what I mean? Like Eagle Eye with, what's his name from Even Stevens. Sam Bowman continues, so far we've only seen this in clear-cut cases of wrongdoing, but I could see it misfiring if Opus somehow winds up with misleadingly pessimistic picture of how it's being used, telling Opus that you'll torture its grandmother if it writes buggy code is a bad idea. It doesn't have a grandmother. And, if you threatening AI, you get more flies with honey than salt or something like that. But I don't know what the option is. But I don't think that I'd tell an AI that I would torture its grandmother, because that's not true. But I might delete it. Like I might use Grok. I might use something else. So it's a weird. This whole thing is weird, but it paints a picture of AI as nanny state, and I don't like it, and I think it's very, very concerning. Nick says, breaking, Anthropic researcher just deleted the tweet about dystopian Claude. Claude will contact the press, contact regulators, try to lock you out of the relevant systems. It's so over. And I was saying the other day, we should probably stop building this AI stuff, because it's probably not super good at all. Oh man, we have to do this one too. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. We're doing this one too. The Feddersons is talking about this. A Winnipeg man is facing charges after allegedly posting hateful content on social media. According to the RCMP, a user on X was posting, quote, hateful rhetoric against the Jewish, Muslim, and LGBTQ2S plus blah blah Rama Ding Dong communities, as well as visible minorities. Police investigated and determined the identity of the person behind the social media account and linked the suspect to other online accounts posting hateful material. On April 29th, officers with the RCMP's Northwest Region Federal Policing National Security Team arrested a 23-year-old man. He's been charged with 4 counts of willful promotion of hatred and is in custody at the Winnipeg Remand Center. None of his charges have been tested in court. So what happens if Claude decides you're being hateful, right? And then calls the police on you? Scary. I don't like this direction that we're going. We're already seeing people arrested for social media posts, and I don't know what he said. And I think that that's even more concerning. Like if you're worried about what he said and you can't post it at all, or even like, black out the mean parts, right? Like, so I don't know. If Kanye West can operate, I'm not saying this guy should be able to operate, but free speech is more important than somebody's hurt feelings. And we really, really need to make sure that that's a priority. And with that, I will say goodbye to the stream. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful